Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Inner Circle. Today, we're talking about that famous generation, that first generation of self-winding Rolex Cosmograph Daytona production at the turn of the new century, in the new millennium, the in-house movements for their famous motorsports chronograph. But today, we are focusing in that time period on that time period from 1988 to 2000, which, in my humble opinion, is not only the first, but also the best, especially because of the value proposition that it offers in the current market vis-a-vis the versions with the ceramic bezel. It's no secret, of course, that this year, 2023, marks the 60th anniversary of the introduction of the model into the Rolex lineup. What is perhaps usually skipped over is the fact that this year is also the 35th anniversary of the introduction of an automatic Daytona into the Rolex lineup from 1988 to 2023. And if, for example, the integration of a bezel ring around the new ceramic bezels with Series 126500 recognizes that long-standing design heritage of hand-wound Daytonas, I think the slightly more elongated, slender hour markers and the more refined outer rings for the chronograph registers on the new design, I think are a tip of the hat towards the so-called Zenith Daytona to the 5-digit series. So I've chosen 3 examples for you from those series, one for each execution in a way, two-tone, steel, and 18 karat yellow gold in ascending order of price point. And I also wanted to choose kind of different dial colors and configurations. So let's start with reference 16523, which is the two-tone execution. And that means you get the stainless steel case and bracelet, but with tachymeter bezel in 18 karat yellow gold. Of course, polished center links of the bracelet in the same material, not to mention the screw down pushers, as well as the crown, and of course the dial fixtures as well. The two-tone watches have been, I think, kind of coming back in vogue in the last few years. They were much maligned in the early years of the 21st century. And not only their aesthetic flourish, but also their everyday wearability, I think, is an important point because you get a little bit of that flair and perhaps just enough of it, especially in the contrast of precious metal with stainless steel. But you get the durability, you get the utility, you get just the everyday reliability of a stainless steel sports watch, especially when you have something like this. This piece has a silver sunburst style, and as I mentioned, gold hands, gold dial furniture, as well as those gold or gilt outer rings for the chronograph registers. So in a way, it replicates the contrast between the silvery tones of the stainless steel and the gilt tones of the 18 karat yellow gold on the dial as well, which I find really playful, very aesthetically pleasing. This piece is in decent condition too, quite well preserved. There's a little bit of a stretch on the bracelet, which is understandable. Again, you're looking at a watch that is now a quarter century old, and you know that there are experts who can help you refresh, rehaul, restore that bracelet. And you should absolutely reach out to me if you would like me to put you in touch with someone. And this particular piece comes with its original papers as well as a presentation box, outer packaging, and the booklet for Rolex Oyster. Not necessarily a full set, but you get uh, most of everything. But most importantly, a watch that is in well preserved condition, looking quite handsome for its age, and in fact has aged really well, I have to say. I really like this particular two-tone version. There are a lot of two-tone pieces with the white and black dial, some gem set versions too, but this is the most original and a very beautiful example of it, listed here on Chrono 24 by a Japanese seller. The buy it now price is 19,150 in US dollars, but they remain open to negotiation. So you should absolutely feel free to see if you can, in fact, work out a better deal for yourself. Next up, we're looking at a full set of a genuine classic, the 16520, stainless steel with the white dial. One of the reasons I like the Zenith Daytona so much is the perfect balance, the absolute symmetry of the dial layout, which is of course consistent through the three executions I'm sharing with you today, but I wanted to point it out in the purest example here. You see the two registers here for continuous running seconds, which is at 9 o'clock, of course, unlike at 6 o'clock, which is the case with the in-house movement post 2000. That continuous running seconds and the 30-minute totalizer are in perfect alignment with the crown. So if you were to, in fact, draw a line, an horizontal line that would go through number 80 here on the tachymeter, through the dots, it would not only divide the dial of the watch face, into two even halves, but it would go right through the middle of that continuous seconds subdial, through the center pinion, through the middle exactly of the 30-minute totalizer, go right through the dots under 240 right there, and cut the crown in half as well. And you can do the same thing, drawing a vertical line, splitting again that subdial for the 12-hour counter, going through the central pinion, dividing the coronet into twice, and exiting through the dots over 120. So everything is perfectly aligned, and I really adore that symmetry. Some of the early examples of the Daytona in stainless steel in this generation, the 16520, actually had brushed center links, but that was something that changed quite quickly. And in fact, this generation of the Daytona was the first sports model to get that kind of treatment in stainless steel. And this 1996 example, of course, testifies to that. As you see, this is more of a genuine full set, not only box and papers, but also all the accoutrements that come as part of the package. And a lot of collectors enjoy seeing that. In addition, on top of a well-preserved watch, I always recommend not to sweat it, not to worry about the packaging, certainly not the box, not even for the papers, as long as you can certify the provenance of the watch. All of these things are just the icing on the cake. You should really worry about getting the best watch in the best condition that you can afford. That should be your absolute priority always. But when stars align, when everything else is perfect, getting something as a full set can be the cherry on top. And this looks like an absolutely great, honest example. Of course, there are all sorts of hairline scratches, but hey, they have to be there, right? This is a beautiful sports watch. Beautiful, but still a sports watch. So, this is, in fact, the condition you should be looking for if you are, in fact, getting a watch once again that is at least a quarter century old. In this case, this piece is actually 27 years old and looking quite like the silver fox that it is in the process of becoming. Listed by a professional dealer out of the United States for the fixed price of 28,493 in US dollars. And that is actually a fixed price. So there is no negotiation for this particular example, but I think it looks absolutely fair. And as always, Chrono 24 has that escrow service, which means that you have a 14-day money back guarantee. If you are not satisfied with the example, you can send it back and get your money back. And of course, it is a hassle, but it's much better and it's much preferable to being stuck with a watch that you don't actually want, that you don't necessarily enjoy. Last but not least, we are looking at a precious metal example from the same time period. Again, a well-preserved and a beautifully patinated example. 16528 in 18 karat yellow gold, case and bracelet, and a black dial. The outer rings have patinated along with the indices, along with the hour markers, rather the luminous material in those um, fixtures to a very pleasant cream tone, which plays really well, of course, with the gold tones of the rest of the watch. Once again, what we have is a full set, including the outer packaging and all the product literature that comes with it, not to mention the papers. Everything looks quite pristine and rather well preserved. If this watch has seen a previous polish, it has been very gentle course, coming with the matching bracelets in 18 karat yellow gold. And here's a peek onto the caliber 4030, which is Rolex's modified version of the Zenith El Primero 400. As you can see, this watch is in a pretty mint condition, beautifully preserved, well worth the investment. And I use that word always advisedly, as you know, on my platforms. But this is a very, very good example. At least this is how it's presented in the photographs, which I find quite compelling in this case. Listed by a professional dealer out of the United States for the fixed price of $48,500 on Chrono24. Now, I always have a single pick of the litter. I know in this case, the price range is pretty open, pretty wide, from the lowest to the highest. So I will qualify what I'm saying here. As I said, I think in terms of the value you are getting, what you get from a 16528, I think is incomparable in the market for Daytonas today. So I would certainly invest in that, because hand-wound Daytonas are quite limited, and they have long been discovered. The prices have gone through the roof for practically every single reference. The 5-digit is going to be the new frontier sooner than later. And believe me, they will start with the precious metal ones, because once again, it's no longer an anathema. There's no longer a stigma on wearing these kinds of pieces that have sports utility origin in precious metals, in 18 karat yellow gold, or other executions. So I would, for that reason, set aside the 5-digit. If this is where you play, if this is what you can afford, you should absolutely get an example. And these days, the prices are not so bad. Of course, there are $10,000-$15,000 up from what these pieces used to sell for just 2-3 years ago, but we can't beat ourselves up for that. You can see if the prices would dip a little further towards the end of the year, but this can still be a good deal. In terms of an absolute deal, I would most certainly look into the two-tone execution. I think these are very elegant watches and offer the best value for your money in today's market for Daytonas. And I highly recommend the 5-digit over 6. As I mentioned, just the aesthetic balance of the dial is a huge vote of confidence, I think, for the timelessness of this particular design. Thank you again for your support. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, of course, you can always reach to me right here. You can find me on Instagram at young.brando, and please do not hesitate to send me a message via email. And my address is lordhellespont5@gmail.com. That is lordhellespont@gmail.com. With that being said, I'm signing off. I look forward to seeing you on the next live stream. Until then, stay safe, wear your watches, and enjoy them. I'll see you on the next one.